Alright guys, so today I'm going to be starting my skid steer engine build. And what I have to do is I am going to D-ring my pistons and keep the bearings on them. Put my crank and everything back in the block with just one piston in there. And run it up the top dead center and see what my stick out is up above the deck, because the machine shop decked the block. Only 3/1000, so it may actually be fine. I might just end up with a little bit of a higher compression ratio, because this engine is super old and I don't know if they make a thicker head gasket for it. Another thing I could do is get the tops of the pistons machined down, but I don't know if I really want to do that. So I'm going to put it together, check and see how far they stick out, make my decision from that. Basically, whenever I picked this thing up, it wouldn't start. There was a lot of pressure in the radiator, leading me to believe that the head gasket was blown somewhere, and it looked like it was blown between each cylinder, but this thing was completely full of coolant, like clear up to the top. You pulled the dipstick out and it was flowing out of the side of the block. I don't know where all that came from, because none of the pistons appear to be broke, and even if the head gasket was blown, I don't think it would have got that much water in the oil. But it could have been a combination of the head gasket being blown and leaking compression into the system, and then it could have been pushing through this timing cover seal where the water pump goes, because you can see there's a good bit of porosity going on here. So I'm going to make sure I seal that up really good whenever I put it back together. But the only other thing I can think is somebody didn't have the head torqued down right, or they shaved the head and the bolts didn't go down far enough, so the head was just kind of bouncing up and down on here. And then obviously you would be able to have coolant flowing from every passage down into, you know, the lifter holes and pretty much anywhere to get into the oil galley. But I'm gonna just put it together right and hope that it works. I'm gonna have to get a new head because they magnafluxed this and told me it was cracked. You can see it's cracked right here along the inlet for the glow plugs on every one. And they also said it's cracked somewhere between two of these valves, although I can't seem to figure out exactly where. Oh, maybe right there, possibly. But basically we need a new head, which is going to be about $1,200 for a head with no valves, no nothing, just a bare piece of metal from Kubota. So that's going to be a fun bill to pay. But I'm basically just going to get right into it. I'm actually just going to use cylinder number 2's piston. So I'm right in the center of the block. I'll go ahead and seat that back onto the crank. Put it at top dead center. It'd be nice to use the dial indicator, but I don't know if I have a dial indicator, but I don't have a mount for it. So I may end up just putting a straight edge across the top here and using feeler gauges to see See if I can get it to sit on top of the piston and then slip it underneath the straight edge, between the straight edge and the deck. Trying to make do with what I have here. I also took the crankshaft in. They said it measured out fine, it was within spec. I took it in because I was afraid that if this thing was churning so much coolant that it might have bent or forced a pretty hard wear mark into the crank, because obviously the pistons are trying to chug through coolant. They said it was good. The only thing I didn't take was the pistons, but I don't see anything wrong with them. For scientific purposes, we're going to reuse this front main bearing, even though it's got some pretty harsh marks in the bottom of it. I don't know if you guys can see that big gouge or not. So obviously that's not good. We're definitely getting all new bearings because of the coolant running down through that thing. Looks like there's some uneven wear on this too, but we'll stick it back in for now. I'm going to lube everything up really good whenever I put it back together just for this. I'm not going to be spinning it too much, so I think it'll be alright. We need all new bearings, all new gaskets. I need to get a new fuel pump, block mounted fuel pump, because when I went to take the injection pump out, I didn't realize the fuel pump needed to come out first, and I busted the one tab off the back of it. See if I can tap that off. It's just stuck on from This is what I use for assembly lube. Permatex Ultra Stick. It's like a red tacky mixture. I've just had luck with this stuff. I rebuilt a transmission with it and it was shipped really nice, so it ought to be good enough for an engine, I would say. It just goes on real thick, and I guess it's supposed to stay there even after the oil starts coming in to really keep everything nice and stuck and lubricated. And obviously this is going to be coming back off anyway, because this is just the literally just trying to measure the stick out. We're going to be putting new bearings and everything back in it anyhow, but just don't want to mess anything up in this process. I'm actually using a cam bearing tool to put this back in, but it definitely works, and as much money as I have wrapped up in tools, if I already have something that works, I'm going to use it. Okay, so now I need to find my manual. We're going to end up having to put this engine probably down on the floor, because with the Kubotas you don't have main journals cast into the block, or at least with these little 3-cylinders. The main bearings come as a whole unit that get torqued down to the crank, and then the whole thing slides through the back of the block, and then this big bolt right here is what actually torques you down to the block. So these need fastened to the crank. Crank slides in from the back. These bolts get torqued. And obviously you can't do that whenever you have the stand head on it. My big bench is up in the barn, and the barn is really dusty. That's why I'm not doing this up there. So we're just going to have to make do with what we got here. What did it say, 25 foot-pound? Or 25.3 foot-pound. I don't want to side load these bearings too much, but okay, there's all the bearing cases tight. Front bearings in. Now for the fun part. This down here before I knock it over. Because I'm actually going to flip this block. Well, maybe I'm not. No, I am, because I got to put that. I got to put those bolts at the bottom. That ought to do. Alright, we'll take them out quick. Alright, now all these channels, I'm just gonna lube them up. So something like that. That one's in. Okay, all torqued up, spins good. Even with the crusty antifreeze bearings in it. Now that we've added 50 pounds to it, this should be fun. Yay! Pick this back up. Wherever I put that bolt at, put the bolt back in. So we definitely do have some. You guys probably saw that. Try to focus up here a little bit more. Maybe get you out of the sun. Focus. There we go. There, now you can see. If you look over towards the side, it's actually sticking up pretty good. So I'm gonna try to put a straight edge on that top of that piston and measure that out. I don't know how well that's gonna work. But that's about all I got. The only good thing about this is actually a certified straight edge. Go across it like this. Down. Okay, right there's top dead. It's definitely up a little further on one side than it is on this side. It's just barely down on this side. So we'll just go right inside, right in beside the piston in a couple spots. See what we can get in there. So I fit 25 thou onto the one side and only 14 on the other side. It's probably just stuck up against the side of the wall on this side a little bit more. Oh yeah, you can move it fucking around. Right there it's about straight. So I'm calling it at 19 thousandths. So now we just gotta look and see what we need to do for head gasket thickness, because I'm sure a normal head gasket is going to take some of that up, but I don't want to heighten the compression ratio of this thing too high, being that it already has flat top pistons, but it has a big chamber up in where the glow plugs are that takes away some of it. So that must be how they did it on this thing. Instead of going with dome pistons, they just took it out of the combustion chamber. Not dome pistons, recessed pistons. But yeah, now I got to do some math and see what I need to do to get the right gaskets, and I'll get all the bearings and everything and be putting this thing back together pretty soon. So thanks for watching, guys. I'll keep it coming.